quiet little town where the only sound at night was the barking of dogs in the distance. But in September 2022, one night shattered that peace forever. 14-year-old Lyric Woods was asleep inside her home, or at least that's what her parents believed. But in the darkness of that night, while the rest of the house was lost in sleep, Lyric picked up not her phone, but her iPad, and had a conversation that would become the final chapter of her life. On the other side was 18-year-old Devin Clark, a popular football player at school, cheerful, loved by everyone. But he too had a hidden side to his life. That night's decisions would end forever. The next morning, two TV writers passed by a deserted stretch of road. What they saw would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Lying side by side, arms stretched out wide. Buckhorn Road, North Carolina, a place hardly anyone ever passed through. This is where Lyric and Devin's bodies were found. Both had been riddled with bullets. When investigators examined the scene, they found 13 spent shell casings scattered across 3 separate locations. That number matched exactly the number of gunshot wounds found on the 2 teenagers' bodies. Lyric had been shot 7 times. 2 bullets struck her from the front, as if she had been trying to turn away. Then she was shot in the back, and finally, 2 more shots were fired at near point-blank range. Devin, too, was shot first from the front, then in the back. 6 gunshot wounds in total. Local residents had heard gunfire that night, first around 10 shots. Then about 10 minutes of silence, followed by 4 or 5 more shots. As if the first attack happened, the teenagers tried to run for their lives, and were finally caught and finished off. Dragged after death. The murder weapon was never found at the scene. Devin's father, Dexter Clark, reported his son missing early that morning. Along with that, he reported something else, his own 9mm handgun, missing from the house, along with roughly 23 rounds of ammunition. When forensic investigators matched those rounds to the shell casings found at the scene, the truth came out. This was the very gun used to kill both teenagers. Devin had stolen his own father's pistol, perhaps believing it would keep him safe. Devin's phone was also missing, but part of his Snapchat messages were recovered through his cell carrier. Those messages revealed that Devin had asked a friend for a ride, offering, in exchange, time with a girl. Lyric had no idea any such arrangement had been made. Had secretly planned her own escape from the house that night, sending her address, the route, and instructions for the driver to turn off the headlights so no one would notice. She walked out of her house that night, and never came back. A few days later, a man named Christian Sykes saw a heartbreaking post from Devin's mother on social media, and it stopped him cold. He remembered that an acquaintance of his, 17-year-old Isaiah Ross, had shown him a gun on a video call weeks earlier and told him a strange story. According to Christian, Isaiah said he had gone to pick up a boy and a girl, and along the way, the boy had been pointing the gun at him. Isaiah said he grabbed the gun away and it went off. Then, because the girl had seen everything, he said he killed her too at the time. Christian hadn't believed a word of it. Isaiah told the story with no emotion at all, even laughing. But once news of the murders spread, Christian realized the story might be true, and he went to the police. Phone data confirmed it. That night, Isaiah drove to Devin's house, picked up Lyric, and headed to Buckhorn Road. Gas station security footage caught Isaiah alone at around 2:20 in the morning. A few days later, after an argument with his mother, Isaiah fled to Delaware, where he was arrested in October 2022. 2 murder charges were filed against him. 4 years later. In January 2026, Isaiah's trial began. He was offered a plea deal with a reduced sentence, and rejected it immediately. He wanted his case decided in court. Isaiah testified in his own defense. According to him, it was actually Devin who shot Lyric after an argument in which Lyric said she wouldn't let him control her anymore. Isaiah claimed Devon then threatened him, and the two struggled over the gun, during which Devon was killed, but his story had serious gaps. The forensic evidence didn't match his account. The hoodie he claimed he went back to the crime scene to retrieve was the same one caught on gas station camera footage on his body, not left behind. And Devon's vape, which Isaiah said had been in his own possession, was later found back in Devon's pocket, a detail his story couldn't explain. Christian Sykes's testimony also had inconsistencies. The color of the gun, the color of the car, but the core of the confession still lined up with the physical evidence. The jury deliberated for 2 days. In the end, they found Isaiah Ross guilty of second-degree murder in the death of Devon Clark, a sentence of 20 to 25 years, but on the charge for Lyric Woods' murder. The jury could not reach a verdict. The court declared a mistrial on that charge, neither guilty nor innocent. To this day, the walls of Lyric's home are covered with her photographs, laughing, happy, full of life. Her mother still remembers her exactly as she was always smiling. 2 lives ended in a single night. And one question still remains: when will full justice finally come? Case number 2. Picture this: a 13-year-old girl asleep in her mother's house. She wakes up, goes to school, laughs with her friends. Then one day, she walks out the door and never comes back. No struggle. Just a silence that 15 years later still hasn't been broken. This is the story of Haley Dunn, and of a house where love and fear lived under the very same roof. In a small Texas town called Colorado City, where everyone knew everyone. Haley Dunn was the kind of girl who made people smile just by walking into a room. Her laugh was so loud and so infectious that people could recognize her from across a room. She was a cheerleader, played the saxophone, and was fiercely competitive in every sport she played. Her parents, Billie Jean and Clint, were divorced. Haley lived with her mother, her brother David, and her mother's boyfriend, Sean Adkins. But here's the thing: Haley's bond with her father remained so strong that she visited him almost every single day. With or without a reason, Christmas 2010 came and went, completely normal, completely happy. Haley got a new iPod, spent time with her dad. No one had any idea that just days later, everything would change. December 27th, 2010. At 5:30 in the morning, Sean left for work. An hour later, Billie Jean left for her own 12-hour shift. Before leaving, she checked on Haley, still fast asleep in bed. Everything looked normal, but that day, Haley never showed up at her father's house, something she did almost every single day. Clint waited and waited. No word came. That evening, when Billie Jean got home, Haley was gone. Sean told her that Haley had walked to her father's house and then decided to spend the night at her friend Mary Beth's. There was just one problem. Clint said Haley had never come by, and Mary Beth's parents confirmed it too. They had never seen Haley either. Her room looked exactly the way she'd left it. Nothing was missing. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The entire town joined the search for Haley. Clint searched everywhere: alleys, dumpsters, wooded areas, but Billie Jean and Sean's behavior was different. Billie Jean avoided searching open fields. She said it felt like they were looking for her daughter's body. Sean stayed distant altogether. No flyers, no organized searches. And then came New Year's Eve, just 4 days after Haley went missing. Billie Jean and Sean threw a New Year's party at their home. Clint stood on his porch with binoculars, still searching for his daughter, while across the street, his ex-wife and her boyfriend celebrated into the night. I don't understand how you can celebrate when your daughter is missing. As the investigation deepened, cracks began to appear in Sean Adkins' story. He'd claimed he was fired from work, but his boss later revealed that never happened. Sean had quit on his own. Phone records contradicted his timeline too, wherever he said he'd been. His phone told a different story. Then came a small but chilling detail. Haley had told her grandmother that at night, she sometimes saw Sean's shadow outside her bedroom door. She was afraid he might come into her room while she slept. During polygraph testing, Sean repeatedly walked out mid-session. At one point, when asked who should be considered a suspect, his answer was, "Both of us." Then came another shock. A police search turned up more than 100,000 images of child pornography at Billie Jean's home and at Sean's mother's house. Billie Jean was arrested for lying about Sean's whereabouts, and still, no arrest was made. There simply wasn't enough evidence. 2 years passed, then 3. With every memorial, every candlelight vigil, hope grew a little thinner. Then, on March 16, 2013, a hiker found human remains near J.B. Thomas Lake. Weeks later, DNA testing confirmed it. This was Haley Dunn. Her official cause of death was never publicly announced, but according to Clint, investigators believed she had died from a blow to the head. The family had to wait for more painful years before Haley was finally laid to rest in 2017. Years passed. Clint never stopped. He kept saying, "I know it's Sean." And finally, on June 13, 2021, a full 10 years after Haley disappeared, Sean Adkins was arrested and charged with murder. For the family, it felt like winning a war they'd fought for a decade. But this story still isn't over. 2 years later, in 2023, another blow came. Prosecutors themselves dropped every charge against Sean Adkins. The reason? The forensic soil test done on his boots turned out to be scientifically unreliable. The FBI itself confirmed the testing method wasn't valid. The charges were dismissed without prejudice, meaning if new evidence surfaces, the case can be reopened. But so far, no new arrest has been made. To this day, prosecutors maintain that Sean Adkins remains their primary suspect, but legally, he remains a free man. Haley Dunn, a 13-year-old girl, whose laugh was so warm that people could recognize her from across a room, is still, all these years later, waiting for full justice. That person is still out there somewhere. And until the whole truth finally comes to light, Haley's story remains unfinished. Case number 3. Have you ever thought about it, loving someone so much that despite every threat, every act of control, every cruelty, you're still willing to give them one more chance? Michaela Hall was exactly that kind of woman. She believed love could change a person, but one night, that belief inside the very walls of her own home, in front of her mother and her daughter, was shattered forever. This is the story of the night love turned into terror. Michaela Hall was born in February 1983, the only child of her mother. Julie raised her alone, and the two were so close that people rarely thought of them as separate. Michaela grew up to be a cheerful, confident woman. She had one marriage that ended in divorce. Then, on a trip to Turkey, Julie met Mehmet Sahin. They fell in love, married, and Mehmet moved to the UK in 2007. Michaela herself traveled to Turkey, and there she met a hotel waiter named Ensar Gol. Within weeks, they fell in love. Within weeks after that, Michaela was pregnant. In 2008, their daughter was born. In 2009, their son. For Michaela, motherhood meant everything. But after the children arrived, Ensar's true nature began to surface. He became controlling, telling Michaela where she could go and what she could do. Whether he was in Turkey or she was in the UK, he kept seeing other women, while Michaela spent everything she had on him, flights. During an argument at a hotel in Turkey, Ensar struck Michaela. When Julie stepped in to stop him, she was shoved aside to. Julie later told friends, "When I looked into his eyes, I felt like he wanted to kill me." Ensar ended the relationship without warning. Michaela was devastated, but weeks later, he called again, as if nothing had happened. Friends warned her again and again, "Don't go back." but Michaela gave him another chance. March 2011, they married in Turkey. Julie didn't attend the wedding. Ensar's UK visa was approved. And in August 2011, he finally moved to the UK, into Julie and Mehmet's home in Thame, Oxfordshire. But there was no peace in that house. Julie and Ensar couldn't stand each other, and inside Ensar, resentment and anger kept building. Quietly, day by day. One day Ensar told Mehmet directly, "I want to kill Michaela." Mehmet assumed it was just something said in anger. People say things like that sometimes, without meaning them. A few days later, Michaela herself called a friend in tears. "Ensar told me if I come home, he'll cut off my head." That too was written off as just another threat. A ticket was bought to send Ensar back to Turkey permanently, but on the way to the airport, he changed his mind and turned back. Before the night it all happened, he spent time with another woman, drank heavily, missed his shift at work, and then, one night, showed up at Mehmet's restaurant, talking strangely. No one realized what those words were pointing toward. At 2:10 in the morning, Ensar came home. Downstairs, Julie and her friend Casey were watching television. Upstairs, Michaela was asleep with her daughter. Their son slept in the next room. Ensar walked into the kitchen, picked up a knife, and went straight upstairs. He entered Michaela's room and stabbed her again and again. Julie and Casey ran upstairs at the sound. Julie saw Ensar stabbing Michaela in the neck. She tried to pull him away, slipped, and fell, and then he turned the knife on her too. Casey was stabbed 4 times as well, one wound coming within millimeters of her pulmonary vein. She managed to escape. Julie tried to reach the front door, but she had lost too much blood and collapsed at the bottom of the stairs, just steps from safety. Ensar picked up their 3-year-old daughter and disappeared into the night. A neighbor heard the screams and called the police. CCTV cameras caught Ensar walking through town, blood on his clothes, knife still in hand, his young daughter in his arms completely calm, as if nothing had happened. He handed the child over to Mehmet and kept calling his family in Turkey, as though discussing something perfectly ordinary. Eventually, 2 unarmed police officers arrested him. Julie had suffered more than 50 stab wounds. Michaela, more than 40. This wasn't a moment of rage, it was a deliberate, merciless attack. The trial began in May 2012. Ensar pleaded not guilty, claiming Julie attacked him first, and that he had only defended himself, but the evidence told a different story. That number of wounds could never be explained by self-defense. On May 31, 2012, the jury found him guilty of murdering Julie and Michaela, and of the attempted murder of Casey. As the sentence was read, Ensar nodded and smiled, showing no remorse at all. Mehmet later said, "I met Julie when I was 23, and I spent 12 years with her, the truest love of my life." Detective Joe Kidman said that in trying to escape responsibility, Ensar had attempted to smear the character of the 2 women he killed, adding even more pain to a family already broken. That one night ended 2 lives, left a 3rd forever scarred, and left 2 innocent children with memories that will never fade. Michaela believed in love. That belief cost her everything.